Welcome back everyone to Equity Development. My name is Paul Hill and I'm delighted today to have with me special guest Jonathan Hunter, Acting CEO of BuildTech software developer Eleco. That's ticker ELCO. Morning, Jonathan.
Good morning, Paul. Thank you very much for having me.
Now, just sort of the big picture wise, the interims, before we walk through the interims and the outlook, can you just sort of quickly take us through a real life example of how the software is used by customers in the field?
Yes, certainly. Well, we have a portfolio of software that ranges from the early stages of planning of a building project through the construction phase and maintenance phases. So we have a number of applications that sit across the life cycle of a building. But really the industry, the construction industry, has been changing over the past 4 years since the adoption and mandate of BIM, which was mandated by the UK government. So to improve processes within construction, it's been underpinned by technology, and that's been a real driver in the industry. And as we move forward into the future, there is more focus on the post-construction phase of a building, where cost and efficiency is certainly important. So we're seeing design decisions being made based on operational factors of a building, or operational costs of a building.
And Jonathan, I guess sort of again, when we sort of take a step back, unfortunately, the UK has had a litany of big sort of white elephants and projects that have massive delays. You just got to point your sort of like your finger at things like Crossrail. You've got HS2 now, which I think started off with a budget of about 60 billion and is now sort of like 105 billion and is 10 years late. And when I read the sort of like the sort of market research reports, they say that typically, or over the whole world, there's sort of like a 20% wastage when we come to actually build projects. And, you know, it's a $10 trillion industry. So is that sort of like consistent with your thesis? Is the real benefits to these clients are sort of cost saving, planning and environmental benefits as well?
Yes, certainly. The more efficient or more detailed and prescriptive that our customers can be in that planning stage, the more certainty they have around the length or build time of a project, but also the cost. So that's where our software, we have estimating software and planning software, which supports customers.
And some of the customers, I mean, I just again, looking at sort of the blue chip sort of list you have, I mean, I saw you've built the Shard, for instance, or not you personally, but your software has, and you've got the sort of the home, you know, got sort of like McCarthy and Stone. I know I've sort of like mentioned Eleco. So is it that sort of like the quality of the customer base you have?
Yes. We're very fortunate that many of the UK's top 100 main construction companies are using our planning software. And also last year there was an award ceremony for the Construction Manager of the Year, and all of those nominees were customers of Eleco. So certainly we're very fortunate to have some of the leading planners across the UK and the world really believing in our software and using our software.
And one other element of the software, I mean, you know, when you look at it sort of like the cutting edge side of it, I know you released the AI visualization product at the sort of start of the year. And I remember actually doing a mock-up example of my lounge. And I put it onto social media and said, look at this picture before and after. And it was identical, i.e. one which was the real life lounge and one where the mock-up using the Eleco software. It was absolutely outstanding. And how's that selling through at the moment? I know you've made a couple of announcements in terms of, or customers have. Can you just walk us through who's sort of signed it up and what sort of responses you've been getting?
Yes, well, we already had a very strong presence in the interior surfaces sector. So floor manufacturers, paints, textiles, providing visualization tools. So the AI tool, which automates the process of identifying a flaw within a photograph, that's not in 3D, it's a 2D photograph, and it will identify the floor to allow a consumer to replace that floor and visualize it. And that's really a disruptor in the industry, because if you've tried to buy flooring in one of the retail outlets, there aren't a lot of visualization and digital tools available. There are hard samples that are either taken home or they can post them to you. So really, it's been adopted by floor manufacturers initially.
Cardine, I think, is one. Was Cardine one? I thought I read that in the media. I mean, that's next to me, not just down the road, I think, in Evesham or something like that.
Yes, Cardine is certainly a customer of ours, and they're using the AI feature. We also acquired another customer, a big flooring manufacturer in the US recently, and we're installing the system on a good number of our existing customers that are already using our tools.
And this technology, I mean, presumably in a post-COVID world, not in a post-COVID, in a COVID world, this really enables these guys to make sales when their shops are shut, presumably. If people are at home or working at home and looking to sort of like change their flooring, put a carpet down or put some, some tiles or something like that, then presumably this is ideal for it.
Yes, it is completely ideal. And, it certainly supports decision-making, buying decisions, which you don't want to get wrong in your own home. Yeah. So no, it's very well received, and our clients see certainly a lot of value in what we deliver when it comes to this digital sales process. It especially helps during COVID, as you say, with retailers downsizing their showrooms. It's becoming more critical to move to this the digital way of working.
And then with the sort of great quality of sort of customer base and your software, etc., how are you sort of like internationalizing that? Because obviously, if you've got some great endorsements by some fantastic customers and reference sites like the Shard and stuff like that, how are you taking it abroad? I mean, America is the most sort of like, there's the largest market, and you have, I mean, I think you're pretty big in Scandinavia, which is the biggest sort of BuildTech market, and not biggest, but certainly one of the most advanced BuildTech markets in the world. I mean, you've got all the pieces. How are you thinking about lifting and shifting that internationally?
Yes, well, we've fortunately we have many supporters internationally, companies and individuals that are using the products, but we're also selling through a established reseller network. So we're investing in reseller communications and marketing to support that channel to sell the software. In the US, I recently appointed a head of US sales, and during the COVID period, he's been with us for a month. He used to work for one of the large competitors, and he's very experienced with channel management. So I've got some high hopes for that individual in the US, and to build on what we've already established in the US. We've established a good reseller network. We've won some large clients, government customers, large main contractors, a good number of the top 400 ENR construction companies in the States. But it takes a little bit of time for a company from the UK to expand into the US, but we're making some good progress, and we're always getting excellent feedback from those that are using our software.
Okay, brilliant. Well, we'll look forward to hearing about that. Now, just turning the sort of like the interims, etc., it was a very resilient performance. So we had a sort of, from the previous announcements, the trading updates, it looks as though we had a reasonable sort of like, start to the year in January and February, and then COVID hit. Can you just take us through broadly how you've seen that sort of like come back? Because in the interims today and the outlook, you mentioned that you've had a reasonable July and August, but just walk us through how it moved from sort of like March to August, just big picture wise.
Yes, well, Nat, obviously it was we went into a lockdown fairly promptly at the end of the first quarter. And we were running yeah, we're running quite well in the first quarter. Then we prepared for lockdown. We were able to, fortunately, we have all the systems in place for communication, which we've implemented over the last few years. So transitioning to a virtual working from home environment was seamless for us. We moved very quickly and we were still operational without any disruption. We saw an instant reduction in face-to-face classroom training. That was probably worst hit. However, we transitioned to virtual training. We've been working and offering virtual training for about 12 months and testing this transition in any case. So we knew that what worked, we couldn't run full day courses. We had to break it down into 2-hour segments, etc. So we mitigated some of that shortfall, but with our clients, our direct users on furlough, that obviously made it difficult to book training and book sales in, etc. But we did offer complimentary training for those planners in the planning community who were on furlough, because many of those planners said to us that in order to apply for another planning job, they have been requested Power Project, Microsoft Power Project training. So we supported that community. We also supported our customers by providing term licenses to work from home. So we really worked together with our customers, and as we got through Q2, we started to see more traction in training. Certainly over the whole period, I have to say that consultants and account managers were at peak levels. There was a lot of interest to move to remote working, but also to look at our collaborative tools like Power Project Vision and Shy systems in the cloud. So we saw a demand in those applications. We're running a number of pilots now for larger organizations that see value in being able to collaborate on projects and share the data across multiple sites.
Okay. Well, I mean, just look again. I mean, when you put all those sort of moving parts together, then the sort of the end of the period result, you came up with sales of what, £12.2 million for the first half, which is only 4% down on a like for like or reported basis. So that's a pretty good result. And I'm guessing a lot of that is the resilience of the recurring revenue streams that the business has. It's sort of 60% plus. Is that about right for sort of recurring revenue streams, maintenance and SaaS and upgrades and stuff?
Yes, the recurring maintenance really, that certainly helps us along periods where there is a bit of uncertainty. Yes, certainly. And with that recurring revenue, it's a bit below 60%, between 50 and 60. That includes SaaS as well and hosted services.
Great. And then just with the actual sort of the cost base, I mean, it was very difficult to spend any money in the second quarter because everybody was locked down. But that sort of like really helped you sort of like your overheads or reduced your overheads, and you managed to sort of like, in fact, actually increase your operating margins in the first half. Anything particular there at all? I mean, I did see you had a credit on your furlough side, but it was very good performance, presumably on reduced T&E and sort of trade exhibitions and stuff.
Yes, yeah, that was certainly the initial focus. My focus was on cash collection, and certainly that helped us through the period. We saw a decline, completely zero spend on events, marketing events, which expect. So yeah, certainly some savings when it came to external marketing spend. we did recruit in the period, as I mentioned earlier, in the US, and a new sales manager in Holland, a new product manager as well. So we're certainly putting in the pieces to plan and strategize and improve the way our products will be in the future. But also, if we come back to recurring revenue, we usually see across the group an average of about 95% retention or renewal. We did see a slight drop with a couple of smaller customers going into administration and others that were on furlough that we simply couldn't get the order re-signed, but that quickly returned after the second half. So we're comfortable. I'm comfortable with the levels of renewals. They're sitting still above 90% renewal rates. We constantly receive feedback on how great our services are and how great it is to work with our colleagues from clients. So I say that's, certainly stands out as one of our USPs is the services we provide. And that is, that brings back this renewal and annual maintenance.
Yeah, and you certainly did a great job on the cash. I think the free cash flow was around about, you built up another 3.3 million. So I think you ended the period with, I think it was net cash 4.4 from being 1.1 at the end of December. So in a COVID situation to generate 3.3 million pounds of cash is actually not a bad position to be in going forward. Now, sort of like just taking a step back, we've got all the pieces here. The company's generating a lot of cash. It's sort of like delivering excellent margins. Now, only yesterday, and this is quite a big data point for sort of investors, I think one of your key rivals, Bentley Systems, IPO'd on NASDAQ and came at a valuation of 8.8 times sales. Now, again, the other two sort of like main listed competitors, Nemenschek in Germany and Autodesk, are trading around about 10 times. And obviously, just running the numbers, Eleco's on about 2.5 times. And that just shows you the sort of the opportunity. The piece that is different between Eleco at the moment, not on the margins, not on the cash generation, they're all identical. All four companies are delivering that type of level. It's just on the top line growth. And just sort of like longer term, medium term, how do you see the business? Can it grow in line with the market, sort of the BuildTech market at about 10% per annum? And if so, how you think that will happen in terms of delivery?
Yes, well, we certainly have the ingredients to grow. We've got excellent products, excellent customer base. I have to say that we certainly compete with those larger businesses with the named customers that we have. So we've got the ingredients in terms of growing within that customer base through upselling, selling more tools like the collaborative tools that I mentioned earlier, Power Project Vision. And we also have products that travel. The translation, Power Projects translated into 13 different languages. So we've got opportunities through new geographies. There's, when it comes to the maintenance software, the Shy Systems software, we saw an expansion into facilities management, which was always our strategy, was to move into facilities management with that application. It was traditionally used for servicing assets within manufacturing businesses. So
that gives you basically the full life cycle of the asset being built for the whole 75 years, does it? The sort of like the cradle to grave approach from the CAD CAM all the way down to sort of the asset management, asset management side.
Yes, and we have those pieces, and that's what I refer to as ingredients. We've got the ingredients, and it's up to myself, the management team, and all my colleagues to really deliver and bring that growth forward. So, we certainly have a well-established platform, a stable platform, cash generative. We've got good recurring revenue, and it's really expansion within our core markets where we have a base, and also through resellers and the channels internationally. Expansion with new customers coming on board and existing customers.
Well, what's quite interesting actually is that I think you joined, was it 2014 or something like that, sort of 5 or 6 years ago, and I think for the first 4 or 5 years, Eleco actually delivered double-digit growth up to really Brexit uncertainty last year, where it sort of like just took some of the wind out of the sails in the second half. And then obviously we've had COVID this year, which has just put everybody back anyway. So the business has demonstrated it can deliver, in fact, market beating double-digit growth. So certainly I think that was sort of a whet investors' appetite that this certainly has been achievable in the past, and there should be, given what you just said in terms of the quality of the product and the customer list, there should be no reason why it can't deliver that type of return, hopefully going forward. Just before we finally finish though, Jonathan, I mentioned, I did see in the announcement that long-term and one of the largest shareholders, long-term exec chairman, John Ketley is stepping down, and what is the sort of time scales, do you think, for the sort of appointment of the CEO? Is that going to be a sort of like, I mean, obviously it's going to be probably elongated because we've still got COVID, but sort of like 3 to 6 months or so like that before a final appointment is made?
Yeah, so succession planning takes a bit of time, and John really, he really transformed and shaped the group to what it is today. So we have a lot to thank John for. And he's been, he's worked every day. He's been so enthusiastic. You've spoken with John, so there is a bit of a change, but I've worked with John for over a decade, and worked on the main board with John since 2016. So there's some, certainly there's no
a lot of continuity.
That's it. Yes. Yeah. Retention of knowledge and continuity is certainly there. And we have some experienced non-executives that support and sound the executives. So the board is certainly functioning as it has very well. But no, it's pleasing to see that John is taking a step back, but I'm sure he will still be actively following the company as an investor, as a shareholder.
Yeah, I think everybody should tip the hat to John, because he's been there as a sort of like the stalwart and the rock behind the whole of the business for the last 10 years. So it's sad to see him go, but obviously at some point you need to sort of move on, and the business, as I say, with the continuity, is in a good position anyway. So, well, thanks very much, Jonathan, and I look forward to hearing how the business progresses over the next 3 to 6 months.
Thank you very much, Paul.